King Charles III will be crowned king today in Britain's biggest ceremonial event for 7 decades. A display of pageantry dating back 1,000 years. Charles is 74 years old and his wife Camilla will be crowned at London's Westminster Abbey in a glittering but solemn religious ceremony with traditions dating back some 1,000 years, followed by a procession. Charles succeeded his mother, Queen Elizabeth, when she died last September. And at 74, he will become the oldest British monarch to have the 360-year-old St. Edward's crown placed on his head. And he sits upon a 14th century throne at London's Westminster Abbey. The royals were greeted by cheers of "Hip Hip Hurrah" and "God Save the King" as they greeted the well-wishers, many of whom had travelled from across the world. India Today's Jonathan Gilbert is getting us more details on that story. Joining us from London right now, Jonathan. Crowds have started to gather in London for a moment in history, even as we stay with these pictures coming in from London there. Get us an idea about the current mood. What are the people saying about this historic development today, this historic moment today?
Well, as you say, the crowds have been gathering for actually for many, many days. I'm standing here in Hyde Park. You can see these well-wishers here behind me. They will come to watch the ceremony on a giant screen that's been erected just down the road there, because none of these people will be able to get anywhere near Buckingham Palace. The people outside Buckingham Palace and all the way along the Mall have been camping out there literally for days. Such is the spirit and fervour and sense of national pride that has engulfed certainly certain sections of the population here. I mean, there are estimated to be some 50-odd thousand people here in the park alone, and that's just to watch it on TV. So as you say, we're just coming up to about an hour now before the start of this extraordinary 1,000-year-old ceremony. The future king and future queen Camilla will travel in a fairy tale coach. You have seen that on your screens before, of course, all the way from Buckingham Palace, slowly up the Mall, and then down Whitehall, all the way to Westminster Abbey, where this 2-hour-long ceremony will commence. Some of those traditions going back, as you say, 1,000 years or sometimes more. It will involve people of many faiths. For the first time, Charles, as we well know, is an extremely broad-minded and ecumenical monarch, but there will also be moments of high ceremony, the passing over of orbs and scepters and the proclamation of oaths, and then, of course, the centerpiece of the entire ceremony, the coronation itself, where the crown will literally be placed upon his head by the Archbishop of Canterbury. It's so dramatic. You couldn't imagine anything in the most high-blown Hollywood film, I imagine. After that ceremony, they will return along the same route in another golden carriage, and then finally the entire family will assemble upon the famous balcony at Buckingham Palace to greet the crowds. At that stage, there will be tens of thousands of adoring flag-waving fans, I imagine. On the Mall itself, there will be a military fly past, and then we await the reaction of the then King and Queen. So certainly excitement from top to bottom, whether you're at the palace, whether you're at the Abbey, or whether you've simply come here to the park to watch the proceedings with your family and a picnic.
Well, absolutely. Also to look out for, Jonathan, in fact, dignitaries, heads of state from over 100 countries are to be present at this historic ceremony today.
Yes, that's right. I mean, obviously the invitation went out to nearly every world leader, with only a few obvious exceptions. President Joe Biden has not attended. That's ruffled feathers in some quarters, although it has been pointed out that President Eisenhower also skipped the Queen's 1953 coronation. It just seems to be a little bit of a tradition from these leaders from the New World, but certainly many other hundreds of world leaders and dignitaries are to be assembled within the Abbey itself. Of course, including those remaining members of the Commonwealth. One forgets that some 2 billion people around the world notionally live within the Commonwealth, this loose affiliation of former British colonies, and they'll all be there, even though some of them are experiencing strong Republican currents and trends at home. This will be their chance to reaffirm their allegiance, if not to the Crown, then certainly to the concept of unity and cooperation that exists within the Commonwealth structure.
Jonathan, I'm just going to come back to you in a moment from now. Lavina Tandon is also joining us from London. But before I go to Lavina, I just want to in fact talk about the fact that the Prime Minister has also tweeted talking about the fact that today's coronation is a moment of extraordinary pride. That's what Rishi Sunak has said. No other country could put on such a dazzling display. It's not just a spectacle, it's a proud expression of a history, culture and traditions. Lavina, to talk to you a little about the mood there. Like Jonathan was telling us, it's not just today, but the people have been, in fact, crowds have been gathering there for days together in anticipation of this moment in history that we all are to witness.
Yes, of course, and you can see the weather. That has been quite British itself. And I must remind that in 1953 also, rain gods were not very kind. And you can say, look at it from where the glass, which side of the glass you want to look at, that these are blessings, or maybe they have not been very kind. So whichever way you look at it, but again, we have rains here. And it is indeed a very, very historic and proud moment for many. There are historic things happening as well. So in this moment, there will, the faith leaders, Jonathan spoke about as well, but there as well, the Queen Consort would not be wearing the crown with the Kohinoor, something that we all have been interested in because it has become symbolic of the British Raj, and especially people of Indian origin here in India have been quite vociferous in asking it back, and other countries have laid their claims as well. So that's one part which is quite historic, because it is a Queen Consort after Queen Victoria, the Queen, who wore it. It came upon the Queen Consorts to wear it. So that's one very important thing. As far as the people are concerned, of course, they are pouring in just like rain is. And to witness something that only happens once, probably in a lifetime at this point in time, and also to see the regalia. They really put up a good show. British put up a very good show when it comes to events like this. And I have met people from France and Canada coming and to witness it. In fact, I've met an Indian lady who came all the way from Delhi to see this. But can I leave you with a very small nugget with the golden, let me call it chariot, though it is the golden jubilee, in which diamond jubilee carriage, in which the king will be coming from the Buckingham Palace. It is he will make 2.23 kilometers distance and will be anointed and crowned with 2.23 kg crown, St. Edward crown, which is the only one time that he will wear it. After that, he will wear the imperial state crown, which is the one that he will wear it in various occasions. And wearing that, he is going to make his journey back from Abbey to Westminster. And all the people that you see, if I may take you around, these are the people who are waiting to witness that very moment, and especially the carriage. It's quite interesting, Sneha, that this carriage, which is a 3-ton almost 5.5, if I'm not a meter long carriage, is actually made in Australia. The entire craftsmanship is Australia, and Australia is one of the Commonwealth countries from Commonwealth realms. There are 14 in all, and in addition to Britain, there are 14 other countries that will have a new monarch. So history being made in these 14 countries, and Australia is one of them. And the only difference is that the handles of this carriage were made in New Zealand, not in Britain, New Zealand. So just like the country is made up of variety of people, and that's what the king is recognizing, giving importance and making this whole coronation, which is a very Christian tradition, of a multi-faith touch, representing the society that is, and everything that is going on in this coronation has that touch, just starting with the carriage, which actually is diamond studded. I have to remember how many diamonds, 24 diamonds. There you are.
All right. Be with us, Lavina. Just coming back to you in a moment from now. We'll talk about the crown in a bit from now. But since you mentioned the crown and we're talking about the monarchy, Jonathan, we can't but not talk about the fact that this is the time, and there's been a growing chorus also. And we must talk about this, given that today is a big day of those people living in the United Kingdom. Citizens who've been saying that this is the time to end monarchy. Those who are against monarchy. What kind of precautions also have been taken to ensure that there is no, anything untoward, so to speak, given that the ceremony is in fact just starting in 50 minutes from now?
On the occasion of the Queen's funeral 9 months ago, there was criticism, certainly of BBC and state broadcasters, of being just a little bit too reverential, a little bit too bowing and scraping, if you like, because of course there is a healthy streak of Republican spirit within the UK as well. It's reckoned that something at least 15% of the population declare themselves staunch Republicans, and amongst the younger generation, amongst the 16 to 24, some Zoomer generation as they call them, that goes up to anything above 50%. So one has to acknowledge that there is a certain Republican spirit within this country, but at the same time, as you can see behind me, there are also staunch royalists, staunch nationalists, and then those people who are perhaps indifferent or perhaps soft monarchists, if you like, soft royalists. So I think one has to accept that there is a broad spectrum of opinion within the UK. It hasn't really wavered over the last few decades. Certainly King Charles, or to be King Charles, is not quite as popular as his mother was, but then he's going to have to earn it. He's going to have to work for that. Now, in terms of your second question, have precautions been taken? Well, certainly there are thousands of uniformed police officers out and about in central London right now, and then behind them, obviously, various other layers of undercover police, and there's been a great deal, obviously, of data-driven policing as well. Any known troublemakers will have been perhaps politely warned that this isn't maybe the time to be emerging. But at the same time, the message has been sent out. The message is very clear that this is a democracy. We do enjoy the benefits of freedom of speech. And if people indeed wish to protest in their own way, be it in the aid of banners and so on, then they will not be clamped down upon. That is their prerogative, and that is their right. So I don't know if we're going to see any anti-royalist banners along the route of the procession. I strongly suspect not, because if anything, they would probably be quickly shut down by all those staunch royalists with their Union Jack umbrellas who've been queuing there for days. But nonetheless, let's not rule it out.
Okay. You know, Lavina, as far as the venue is concerned, that's of great interest. I'm just, getting in some information, and we've been reading about this, about the fact that Westminster Abbey is where all the ceremonies have always taken place for years together, since the year 1066. Charles is actually following 40 of his predecessors in being crowned at the Abbey.
Yes, indeed, it is a historic moment. You're absolutely right. He's the 40th monarch to be crowned king. Well, he's already a king, but crowned here and anointed here in Westminster Abbey since 1966. Also, the various things that they're all quite symbolic, from the carriage that will carry him, which is 11 years old as well, will carry him, was made for Edward, and now which will go from the crown that he's going to be wearing. There are 2 crowns that he's going to be wearing. So there are points of various points of importance and tradition, as well as this is a moment where they are bringing the modern world with the traditional world. So in 1953 there were 8,000 guests, and this time around is 2,200. So you were talking about Republicans, and I have to say I hope the British would follow the freedom of speech philosophy that they have for every other protest, and that would be carried out here when the Republicans have to protest. And there is quite a strong voice, and there's also a voice which might like monarchy but say that what is the point of spending 250 million pounds, including the security money of the taxpayers, for this. But then there is a very strong school of thought who will say please enjoy it, because it's going to add like economic injection into the society, in the economy as well. So there is all sorts of voices, but as we see, despite the weather, the people are turning up, and some of them actually, Sneha, are also people trying to make their way and are stuck because they have to go to the office. So there are both sides to the coin. Some who are loyalists and royalists and here and enjoying, while some Republicans who are trying to make their voice heard.
Be with us, Praveen. I'm just going to come back to you in a moment from now also, Jonathan. We are just going straight to these reports that are coming in first. The coronation of Charles III and his wife Camilla as King and Queen of the United Kingdom at Westminster Abbey is being telecast globally. However, this really isn't the first televised coronation event. Charles' mother, Elizabeth II's coronation was televised exactly 70 years ago. Here's more.
40th reigning monarch of United Kingdom, King Charles III, and a coronation telecast across the world. But this will not be the first televised coronation. Precisely 70 years ago, on 2nd June 1953, Charles watched his mother crowned as Queen Elizabeth II. The coronation was televised live across Britain. More than 20 million people watched the ceremony on television, outnumbering the radio audience for the first time.
And the other territories, to any of them belonging or pertaining, according to their respective laws and customs.
I solemnly promise so to do.
These stunning visuals in black and white showed the glory and grandeur of the British royal family. Traditions that were once restricted to elite were now watched by public and across the world for the first time. The event also reflected coming of age of television and a modernized monarchy. The Queen went on to become the longest serving monarch until her death. Her ceremony also became a visual benchmark for the future monarchs. Elizabeth was crowned at 27. Charles is now 74. But 20 years before Queen Elizabeth's event was captured live through homes, the coronation of King George VI, her father, on 12th of May 1937, gave the BBC television service its first major outside broadcasting challenge just 6 months after inauguration. Later, a coloured version brought to life Westminster Abbey record of eyewitnesses, recalling the overall impression of colour everywhere. With blue and gold hangings and carpets and crimson robes and uniforms. Then Queen Mary with Princess Elizabeth and Margaret attended watching from the Royal Gallery. According to BBC archives, just 3 cameras were used in 1937, while approximately 20 cameras broadcast in 1953. In 2023, Charles' crowning is said to be not just a TV spectacle, but also tapping into the digital age. Bureau Report, India Today.
This brings us to the end of this edition, but we're leaving you with these pictures that have been coming in of the coronation, in fact, and the mood there right now as we speak in London, where crowds have gathered to witness that historic moment in just about 35 minutes from now. Thank you for watching.